All right, let's jump right in. Think about this. Every single living thing, from you and me to the tiniest little bug, is made of cells. And these tiny units, they're not just sitting around. They are bustling little cities, constantly bringing in supplies, shipping out products, and, yeah, taking out the trash. Today, we're going to take a look at the city gates and figure out how cells manage all this traffic. But to make this all feel a little more real, we're going to solve a classic kitchen mystery. How does just sprinkling a little salt on a cucumber totally transform it into a pickle? I mean, it kind of seems like magic, right? But the answer is pure cellular science. And by the end of this, you'll get exactly how it all goes down. The key to everything, our pickle problem and really life itself, is this amazing structure right here, the cell membrane. You can think of it like a smart gate or maybe even a bouncer at a club. It's not just a boring wall, it's this incredibly intelligent, active barrier that's, and this is the key word, selectively permeable. It gets the final say on what comes in, what gets kicked out, and when. So let's take a closer look at how this smart gate actually works, because it has some very different ways of handling business. First up is the easiest method. This is for the stuff that gets a free pass. The cell doesn't have to do any work at all, it just kind of happens on its own, all thanks to the basic laws of physics. This is what we call passive transport. You've totally seen this in action before. Imagine dropping a bit of food coloring into a glass of water. It just spreads out, right? It moves from where there's a lot of it to where there's less, until it's all evened out. That's exactly how passive transport works. Stuff moves from high concentration to low concentration. It's like rolling downhill. No effort, no energy needed. Now, this autopilot transport happens in a few different flavors. You've got simple diffusion for tiny molecules like oxygen that can just slip right through the membrane, no questions asked. Then there's facilitated diffusion for things that are a bit bigger or have an electrical charge. They need a special protein channel to open a door for them. But the one we really care about for our pickle mystery is that third one, osmosis. And that is all about the movement of water. Okay, so let's zoom way in on a single cell from our cucumber. Normally, it's just hanging out in a balanced, or what scientists call an isotonic environment. This just means the amount of water inside the cell is pretty much the same as the amount outside. So a little water moves in, a little moves out, everything's equal. The cell is happy, it's plump, it's stable. But then you add salt. Now you've created what's called a hypertonic environment. It's way saltier on the outside. Well, nature hates an imbalance, and since those big salt particles can't easily get into the cell, the water inside does the next best thing. It rushes out to try and dilute the salt. And all that water leaving is what causes the cell to shrink and get all wrinkly. And that's it. You've just turned a cucumber into a pickle using osmosis. Mystery solved. Okay, but what if a cell needs to move something in the exact opposite direction? What if it needs to pack more of something inside, going against the natural flow? That's not like rolling a ball down a hill. That's like trying to push it back up. And for that, you're going to have to spend some energy. Which brings us to the other big way of getting things done, active transport. So yeah, let's talk about our next method. This is not the free-for-all public entrance. No. This is the exclusive VIP section where the cell actually has to pay a cover charge to get things in or out. So here's the absolute crucial point. Active transport moves stuff against its concentration gradient. It takes things from a place where there's not much of it and shoves it into a place where there's already a lot. To do that, the cell has to spend its own energy currency. It's a ton of work, but sometimes it's absolutely vital for survival. And that energy has a name, ATP. It stands for adenosine triphosphate, but you can just think of it as the rechargeable battery that powers almost everything a cell does. Every single time a particle gets moved using active transport, the cell has to spend some of its precious ATP. There is a very real cost to doing business this way. So why would a cell even bother? Well, it's essential for keeping things just right on the inside. A great example is your nerve cells. To send signals, they need to have a very specific imbalance of ions. So they use these amazing little protein pumps that are constantly working, burning through ATP to forcefully move ions against their natural flow. This keeps the nerve cell charged up and ready to fire. It's pretty incredible. Okay, so we've covered the tiny molecules that just slip through and the ions that get pumped across. But what about the really big stuff? How does a cell import a giant protein or ship out a big batch of hormones? For that, it means a totally different system. This is called bulk transport. And here, instead of using a little door or a pump, the cell literally changes its shape. It uses the membrane itself to wrap around and either swallow or spit out these huge items. And because this is basically a major remodeling project for the cell, you guessed it, it costs energy. When a cell needs to bring something big inside, that's called endocytosis. This is literally the eating part of our title. The membrane actually reaches out, surrounds the particle, and then pinches off to form a little bubble called a vesicle that safely brings the cargo inside. It's how our immune cells can literally swallow invading bacteria whole. And the reverse of that process is exocytosis. This is how the cell takes out the trash or ships out important products. A vesicle inside, maybe it's full of waste or maybe it's full of hormones to send a message, travels to the edge of the cell, fuses with the membrane, and poof, it releases its contents out into the world. All right, so let's tie this all together now. Let's look at the big picture and bring it right back to where we started with that cucumber. When you boil it all down, the type of transport a cell uses really comes down to one simple question. Does it cost energy? Passive transport is the free ride, just going with the flow. But for the tough jobs, moving things uphill with active transport or handling the heavy cargo with bulk transport, the cell absolutely has to pay up with its ATP. And, none of this, not one bit of it, would be possible without the real hero of our story, the cell membrane. Its incredible ability to be selectively permeable is what allows for the effortless osmosis that pickles a cucumber and, at the same time, the powerful pumping that keeps our nerves firing. It truly is the smart, dynamic gatekeeper of life. So the next time you see a pickle, or you water a plant, or heck, even just take a breath, you'll know about the incredible, invisible dance of molecules happening across trillions and trillions of cell membranes. So the final question is, now that you know the rules of the game, what other parts of your world do you think are being shaped by these fundamental, invisible processes?